What was supposed to be a chill family vacation turned into pure chaos when my cousin Larry's jealousy exploded. One minute we were laughing on the beach, the next he was screaming about lies that had been buried for years. I thought it was just sibling rivalry drama, but what came out left everyone in shock. Secrets, betrayals, and decades of jealousy ripped our family apart in the middle of paradise. So, a little context. My cousin Larry, 31M, and I grew up pretty close. He's the kind of guy who always carried a chip on his shoulder. If I got good grades, he'd say the teachers liked me better. I got a new phone, he'd joke that my parents spoiled me. Stuff like that. I always brush it off, because honestly, that's just Larry. Fast forward to the summer. My parents decided to do this big family vacation in Croatia. They rented a villa near the coast, blue water, private pool, the whole dream. It was supposed to be relaxing. Larry came along with his mom, my aunt Diane, my brother Chris, 28M, and my younger sister Megan, 24F. At first, things were fine. We had wine nights on the terrace, big family dinners, and beach trips. But I could feel the tension. Larry would make these little digs like, "Oh wow, look at you, Mr. Perfect, ordering in Croatian like you're a local." Or, when I offered to pay for groceries, "Must be nice having money to throw around." I ignored it. But the real shift happened on day 4. We'd gone out on a boat trip, and everyone was sunbathing, swimming, just vibing. I was talking with Megan and Chris about possibly going to Italy after, since we were already in Europe. Larry suddenly cut in. "Larry, of course, you two get to go on another trip. Some of us don't have mommy and daddy funding our little adventures." Me, "Dude, I work. I've been saving up for this." Larry, "Yeah right, you've been the golden boy since day one. Don't act like it's all you." It got awkward fast. Aunt Diane told him to knock it off, but he sulked the rest of the ride. That night, at dinner in the villa, Larry was quiet until he suddenly slammed his fork down and said, "You all think he's so perfect, don't you? Always the smart one, the successful one, the one everyone brags about. Well, maybe it's time someone told the truth about how fake this all is." The table went silent. My mom asked him what he was talking about, but Larry just smirked and poured himself more wine. I swear, the air in that room got heavy. My brother later whispered, "What the hell was that?" and even Megan, who's usually pretty chill, looked freaked out. I thought it was just Larry being dramatic, but little did I know that was just the beginning, and by the end of this trip, half the family would be crying, and I'd learned secrets that had been buried for years. That night after Larry's outburst, nobody really said much. We all just awkwardly finished dinner and went to bed early. But the next morning, things got worse. I woke up to the sound of voices coming from the kitchen. When I walked in, Larry and my mom were arguing. "Larry, stop acting like you don't know. You've been covering for him my whole life." My mom, "Larry, this isn't the time or the place. You're drunk and you don't know what you're saying." Larry, "Drunk? I have one glass of wine. You just don't want the truth out." I stepped in, totally confused. Me, "What truth? What are you even talking about?" Larry just glared at me like I was the enemy. Everyone else eventually stumbled in: Chris, Megan, and Diane. The tension was unbearable. Larry finally exploded. "You all act like no, it's some self-made success story, but the truth is, he's been handed everything while I got left with scraps. Do you even know why? Do you know what they've been hiding?" I honestly thought he was going to say something stupid about money again, but then he dropped the bomb. "Because he's not even really one of us." Dead silence. My jaw literally dropped. Me, "What the hell are you talking about?" Larry, "Ask your mom, or better yet, ask my mom. She knows the truth." Everyone turned to Aunt Diane, who went pale. She tried to shut him up. "Larry, that's enough." But it was too late. He was already on a roll. "Larry, I grew up being told I was the screw-up cousin, that I didn't measure up. You all compared me to him my whole damn life, and now here we are on this perfect vacation for Mr. Perfect, and I'm supposed to smile and play along. No, not anymore." I was shaking at this point. Me, "If you've got something to say, then just say it. Stop with the cryptic crap." Larry smirked and leaned back in his chair. "Fine, you want the truth. You're not even Uncle Dave's kid." It felt like someone punched me in the chest. My dad, Uncle Dave, to Larry was the most solid guy I knew. I couldn't even process what Larry was saying. My mom's face crumpled, and that's when I realized he wasn't just making it up to hurt me. Megan started crying immediately. Chris just sat there in stunned silence, and Aunt Diane buried her face in her hands. My mom tried to speak. This isn't the way I wanted you to find out." I couldn't breathe. I walked outside onto the terrace, staring at the ocean, trying not to throw up. Years of little things suddenly started making sense. The way my dad's side of the family sometimes treated me differently, the awkward glances when people said I looked nothing like him. Larry followed me out, voice dripping with bitterness. "Now you get it. The golden boy wasn't even blood, and I was the idiot stuck in your shadow." That was the moment the vacation officially turned into a nightmare. I stayed on the terrace for what felt like hours, the salty air doing nothing to calm my racing thoughts. Larry wasn't done. He paced back and forth, muttering to himself, but loud enough that I couldn't ignore. "Larry, all these years comparing me to him, laughing at my failures while he got everything handed to him, and now you're all acting shocked." I finally snapped. Me, "Larry, enough. Just tell me, what the hell are you talking about? Who even am I then?" He froze, his eyes flashing with triumph and anger. Before he could answer, my mom came out, looking like she aged 10 years in 10 minutes. "Mom, Larry, please not like this." "Larry, not like this? You think hiding the truth for decades was better, huh?" He waved his hands wildly toward me, like I was a symbol of everything he'd suffered. Then Aunt Diane joined, stern and frustrated. "Diane, Larry, you need to calm down. You're making it worse." Larry shook his head, tears forming in his eyes. "Larry, no, I'm tired of being the villain while he's always the golden boy. You lied to him his entire life, don't act innocent now." At that, my dad appeared from inside the villa. He looked exhausted, like he'd been waiting for this moment for years. "Dad, Larry, it's true. I wanted to tell him when he was older, but he kept forcing me to wait. Yes, he's not biologically my son, but you need to understand something. That doesn't change the fact that I've loved him as my own." My head spun. Everything I thought I knew about myself, my childhood, my family, it felt like it was crumbling. Me? So all this time, you were lying to me? "Dad, not lying, per se. I protected you. I wanted you to grow up in a safe environment. Larry, I didn't want you to feel like you were less than anyone." Larry laughed bitterly. Larry, protect me. You protected him from the truth, and I had to watch him get everything I worked for. Chris stepped in, voice shaking. Chris, Larry, you're twisting it. Dad loved both of us. We never compared you to him. Not really. And Mom, you've held on to this jealousy forever. Larry's face twisted in rage. Larry, I've been invisible. Chris, that's the problem. I felt a mix of anger and pity. I knew his resentment had been simmering for decades. But hearing all this out in the open, seeing my mom cry, my dad's eyes pleading, and Megan clinging to Chris, it was like a bomb had gone off in our family. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, Larry slumped onto a lounge chair. His anger didn't vanish, but it seemed smaller somehow, weighed down by exhaustion. Larry, I just wanted everyone to see why I've hated this my whole life. Mom, we see you, Larry, and maybe it's time we stop holding secrets. This family, we love each other, even if it's messy. For the first time, there was a flicker of calm. Not resolution, but the truth was out. And in that moment, I realised that this occasion wasn't about paradise anymore, it was about confronting the shadows of our past. The next morning, the villa felt different, heavier, quieter. Breakfast was tense, with Larry barely touching his eggs and toast, and everyone else exchanging nervous glances. For a while, nobody said a word, just the faint clinking of cutlery and the distant sound of waves hitting the shore. I decided to break the silence. Me? Look, Larry, I don't care about DNA. You're still my cousin, and you're still family, but you can't just throw accusations and expect everyone to sit there quietly. Larry didn't respond at first. He just stared out at the water, his jaw tight. Then, quietly, Larry, I know, I needed you to feel what I felt, invisible, secondary, like nothing I did mattered. Chris leaned over, trying to mediate. Chris, we all know now, but holding on to this for years, letting it fester, that's what hurt more than anything. Megan, wiping her tears from the previous night, added softly. Megan, maybe we can start over, just for the rest of the vacation? Larry nodded, still tense, but there was a vulnerability in his expression I hadn't seen before. Later that day, we decided to hit the beach again. Larry stayed a bit apart at first, dipping his toes in the water while the rest of us swam and played frisbee. Eventually, he joined in. At first, his movements were stiff, almost defensive, but as we laughed together, tossing a beach ball and chasing each other into the waves, I noticed him smiling the first real smile in days. That night, we had a casual dinner in town at a little seaside restaurant. Larry opened up more, telling stories from our childhood, some funny, some sad that I'd never heard. For the first time, I saw that beneath all the anger and jealousy, he was just a person who felt overlooked. At one point, he looked at me, a little sheepishly. Larry, you really were spoiled. But I guess I can forgive a little. I laughed, shaking my head. Me, I guess we both had our struggles. Yours just looked different than mine. Aunt Diane chimed in. Diane, it's a start. We can't change the past, but maybe we can do better moving forward. By the end of the evening, the tension had eased, though not completely. Larry still had a long way to go in working through his feelings of jealousy, but at least he wasn't bottling everything up anymore. Back at the villa, we sat on the terrace with drinks in hand, watching the sunset. The ocean glowed orange and pink, and for a moment it felt like a fragile peace had settled over us. Larry broke the silence one last time that night. Larry, I guess I've been holding on to years of anger because I never felt like anyone understood me, but tonight I feel a little seen. I clinked my glass against his. Me, to being seen and finally telling the truth. It wasn't perfect. Far from it. But after all the jealousy, all the secrets, and all the lies, it was the first step toward rebuilding what had been broken. And for that, I was grateful. The next few days of the vacation were surprisingly calm. Larry seemed quieter, more reflective. We spent mornings exploring the small coastal towns, afternoons snorkeling or lounging by the pool, and evenings cooking together at the villa. It almost felt like we were reclaiming the vacation we were supposed to have. But of course, true trauma doesn't stay buried for long. On the fifth day, we decided to rent a small sailboat and explore a secluded cove. The sun was blazing, the water crystal clear, and everything seemed perfect. Larry and I were at the bow, joking and trying to steer the boat together. He looked relaxed, even smiling genuinely. I started thinking maybe, just maybe, things were finally okay. Then Aunt Diane's phone buzzed. She frowned and held it up. Diane, guys, this is not good. Curious, we gathered around. It was a message from an old family friend in town, someone my parents had known for decades. Larry grabbed the phone. His face changed almost instantly, from casual to shocked, then furious. Larry, no, this can't be real. I felt a pit in my stomach. Me, what is it? Larry didn't answer immediately. He just stared at the screen, pacing back and forth. Finally, he spoke, voice tight with anger. Larry, it's proof my parents knew about the DNA situation from the start and they kept it from both of us, not just me. All these years they lied to everyone, including Dad. My stomach dropped. I felt betrayed, but also sick to my core. I turned to my mom and Dad. Me, is this true? Mom looked like she'd been punched in the gut. Mom, Larry, I didn't know how to tell you without hurting both of you. We thought it was best to wait until you could understand. Larry's hand shook. Larry, wait, you thought lying for decades was better than telling me the truth. I've wasted my life resenting him for something I didn't even understand. Chris stepped in, trying to calm the situation. Chris, Larry, we've all been hurt here, but this is bigger than jealousy. It's family history you can't change. The tension exploded. Larry shouted, and the sound of the wind and waves seemed to amplify it. Larry, family history. You mean a web of lies, a lifetime of pretending, and now you're acting like we're supposed to just move on. I realised then that this was the climax, the moment where the fragile piece could either shatter completely or force real understanding. After a long pause, Larry sank to the deck, burying his face in his hands. Larry, I don't even know who to trust anymore. I sat next to him, cautiously. Me, I know it feels impossible, but maybe this is the only way we can rebuild. If we're honest from now on, maybe we don't have to keep all this anger inside. He didn't say anything for a while, just stared at the horizon. Finally, a small, bitter laugh escaped him. Larry, maybe, but it's going to take a long time before I forgive anyone, even myself. The rest of the sail back was silent, heavy, and introspective. For the first time, I understood that some wounds are deeper than jealousy or resentment. They're built over years of secrets and lies. And fixing them? That would take more than a few days on vacation. We got back to the villa in near silence. The sailboat had been beautiful, the water sparkling under the afternoon sun, but the mood felt like a storm cloud had settled over us. Larry didn't speak much, and every time I tried to approach him, he shrugged me off. Even Aunt Diane and my mom seemed tense, tiptoeing around him like fragile glass. That evening, Chris suggested we all have a family meeting on the terrace. The sunset gave everything a golden glow, but it couldn't hide the tension. We sat in a circle, drinks in hand, and for the first time, everyone was quiet, waiting for someone to start. Finally, Mom spoke, voice slow but steady. Mom, Larry, I know what you found out today hurt, and I'm sorry. We tried to protect both of you, but I can see now that keeping the truth was the wrong choice. Larry's jaw tightened. Larry, you mean decades of protecting him from the truth while I got the leftovers? That's protection. Dad sighed, rubbing his forehead. Dad, no, Larry, that's failure on our part. We wanted to shield you, but I see now it only made things worse. Megan chimed in softly. Megan, maybe this is the moment to be real with each other. We can't change the past, but we can stop lying, then maybe start listening. Larry looked at her, something soft flickering in his eyes. Larry, listening, I've been waiting for that my whole life, and nobody ever did. There was a long pause. I could see him wrestling with everything inside him, rage, hurt, jealousy, and even a flicker of vulnerability. Slowly he took a deep breath. Larry, I'm angry, I'm hurt, but I don't want this vacation to ruin us completely. I can try, but it's going to take time. I nodded, finally feeling a small weight lift off my chest. Me? We'll all have to try. Larry, I don't care about bloodlines, you're my cousin, and I don't want years of resentment between us. For the rest of the night, we stayed on the terrace talking in fits and starts. Larry shared stories of his childhood, things I'd never known. He told us about how he always felt like he was living in someone else's shadow. I listened, and for the first time, I realized how deep his jealousy had been rooted, and how valid his feelings were, even if expressed in the wrong way. By the time the stars came out, there was a fragile sense of understanding. No one pretended everything was perfect. No one claimed the past could be erased. But for the first time in years, the walls between us felt a little thinner. Larry even cracked a small joke at one point, grimacing but smiling. Larry, guess I'll survive a few more family vacations as long as nobody reminds me who's the golden boy. We all laughed carefully, but genuinely. It wasn't the end of the drama, but it was the start of something better. I realized then that the truth, no matter how painful, had a strange way of opening doors. And maybe, just maybe, our family could walk through them together. The final day of our vacation arrived, and for the first time in nearly a week, the villa felt lighter. Larry was up early, making coffee for everyone without a word of complaint. There was still tension beneath the surface, sure, but it felt manageable, like the storm had passed, leaving us with fresh air and a chance to rebuild. We spent the morning walking along the cliffs near the villa. The ocean stretched endlessly below, and the sun sparkled off the waves. I glanced at Larry, noticing how his posture had relaxed slightly. He wasn't smiling like nothing had happened, but there was a calmness I hadn't seen before. At one point, he stopped and turned to me. Larry, hate about what I said before, all the jealousy and the yelling, I'm sorry, I didn't handle it well. I shrugged, smiling weakly. Me? It's okay, I get it. I didn't know half the stuff you felt, and I probably should have noticed sooner. We walked in silence for a bit, letting the waves crash beneath us. I realized how much this vacation had been about more than just sun and beaches. It had been about facing truths, messy emotions, and decades of unspoken resentment. Later, back at the villa, the rest of the family gathered to pack and prepare for the flight home. Even Chris and Megan were in a better mood, joking quietly and teasing Larry without fear of setting him off. Aunt Diane hugged him tightly, whispering something I couldn't hear. Larry smiled briefly, eyes watery but genuine. Over lunch, Larry raised a glass. Larry, to honesty, finally, and to surviving a week with a family that's complicated, but still ours. Everyone clinked glasses. I felt a lump in my throat. It wasn't perfect. Some wounds were still raw. But the air had cleared, and the lines of communication finally were open. Before we left the villa, I took a moment to speak with my dad privately. Me, I get it now. You did what you thought was best, but hiding the truth, it nearly destroyed us. He nodded, a mix of guilt and relief on his face. Dad, I know, and I'm sorry, but I hope we can move forward from here as a family. On the drive to the airport, Larry and I sat in the back together. We didn't talk much, but there was no tension, just a quiet understanding. He even reached over and gave me a side punch in that old, familiar way, the kind we used to do as kids. Larry, don't get too comfortable being the golden boy, though. I'll still take you down if you try. I laughed. It felt normal. And for the first time in years, I realized that family, even messy, flawed, jealousy-ridden family, was worth fighting for. As we boarded the plane, I looked out the window at the Croatian coastline disappearing beneath us. The ocean still sparkled, but now it was a reminder. Vacations come and go, but truths finally faced it can last a lifetime. Larry caught my eye and smirked. Larry, next time, I'm picking the vacation spot, somewhere you can't ruin everything. I shook my head, smiling. Me, deal, but maybe, just maybe, we'll survive it too. And for the first time, I truly believed